Do I regret trading my Jeep Gladiator Sport for the Jeep Gladiator Mojave? Let's talk about it. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Rob Motive JT. So the big question is, do I regret trading my Jeep Gladiator Sport, and it was actually the Sport S, for the Jeep Gladiator Mojave? You know, I had that Jeep Gladiator Sport set up the way that I liked it. I had the air raid cold air intake on it, the hood struts, the tires, the wheels, all that kind of stuff that really personalized it for me, including the green, which I know is a kind of polarizing accent color, but including the green accents that I had. I think it looked pretty good. I think it looked kind of tough. You know, some people, well, really my mother, calls it the old lady Jeep Gladiator. And I'm like, what? How is that an old lady Jeep Gladiator? I mean, I didn't think so, but whatever. So there are some differences between the two. The longer I have, or the more experience, the more seat time I get in the Jeep Gladiator Mojave, the more apparent some of the differences become. We're going to get to whether I regret it or not in the end. But first of all, as I'm looking out right now as I'm driving, which hopefully most people do, it's important that you look while you're driving. I have the hood. It has the hood scoop on it, the raised hood, if you will. And I got to admit, I think I've mentioned this before, I wasn't a big fan of that initially. The first time that I ever drove this particular Jeep Gladiator, when my mother got it, just seemed like that hood was in the way a little bit, and I preferred the lower impact hood, if you will, being able to look right out over it. Well, now that I've been in this for a while, and I always like the looks of it from the outside, but now that I've been in it for a while, got some more seat time, I like it. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's definitely a meaner look for the truck, and I kind of like the way now that it looks looking over it. I think it just took a little bit of getting used to. I mean, honestly, when I drove the Mojave before, it was only a couple of times or here and there. It was my mother's and she drove it. So yeah, I do like it. I've gotten over that. No regrets there. We have to talk about the suspension, because that really, other than the aesthetics of the truck, is the biggest difference, I think, between the Mojave and the Sport S. It is a firmer suspension. It has the Fox suspension. There's a little bit of a lift on it, which, by the way, I love the lift. That is one thing that is definitely a benefit for me in going to the Mojave, is I have a little bit of a higher truck. For me, that's pretty cool. But the suspension itself, it is firmer. And I have to say, with the tires that came on it, the original setup, which were the MTs, the mud terrains, it was noticeably different. I have changed the wheels and tires. I stayed with the same size, but I did change the wheels and tires, and more importantly, the tires. I went with, again, the Falcon Wild Peak AT3Ws. It's a 285/70 R17, I believe. And I have to say, there is no better tire that I've experienced in any truck that I've had than the Falcon Wild Peaks, the AT3Ws. The change was immediate. As soon as I got in the truck and I took off from the tire shop, Discount Tire, I noticed a much more civilized ride, a smoother ride. I have mentioned that I do think the AT3Ws, strangely, are a little bit louder. I think I get a little bit more road noise out of them. I'm not exactly sure why. They look, just visually inspecting them, like they might be a little bit wider. At least the tread, the part that actually touches the crown. That might be why there's more meat, if you will, slapping the ground as you go than there was with the MTs. I don't know. I would have thought the MTs would have been louder because they have a more aggressive, deeper tread pattern. You know, deeper knobs, if you will, on those tires. But it's not so. Now, I don't think for the common Joe, they probably should be putting MTs on the truck. I think they should come with nothing more aggressive than the Falcon Wild Peak AT3Ws. I think they're the perfect, as I've mentioned, tire for this truck. So I've kind of alleviated that firmer, harsher ride that I had before. Now, The comfort otherwise, the seats and the stuff like that, they're basically the same. They have different stitching, but really they feel about the same, which is good because I found the Sport S Gladiator seats to be very comfortable. No issues from those, took a long distance trip in them, never had any problems, and I'm happy that I've got the same feel in the Mojave as I had in that truck. Fuel economy wise, this truck should be calibrated for fuel economy because I put the same size tires on. So I really shouldn't have changed anything by going with these different tires like I did on the Sport S. It had a smaller all-terrain tire or all-season tire, and I went to the Falcons. So what am I getting? Right now, real time, 14.1 miles per gallon. Probably 85, 90% city type driving. I do get into some speeds where I'm above 45, 55 miles an hour, but I definitely don't travel the freeway a lot where I would be getting better fuel economy at higher speeds within reason. I mean, I'm talking in the 55 to 65 range, something like that. That's the sweet spot. That's where you're going to get the best mileage. So it just changed to 14.2. That is comparable to what I was getting in the Sport S. Again, the same kind of driving, non-computer adjusted in the Sport S, however. So I'm guessing that it probably did get a little bit better fuel economy, maybe somewhere in the 15 point odd something range. Not a big deal to me. 1 mile per gallon, you know, we're talking about pennies unless the prices keep going up, which is absolutely insane. Now, there is an issue. There is an issue with this truck, which hopefully by the time this video airs, I'll have resolved, and that is it runs rough. It idles rough. It only has 2,000 right now, 35 miles on it. So it doesn't make any sense that we've got a rough idle, and it is something that developed, something that just happened rather recently. My mom had noticed it. She mentioned it to me, and then when I was riding with her in it before I got it, I noticed it as well. And it's enough that when I have my phone up on the magnetic mount, which is where you guys are right now, and I know there may be some bouncing around, that's because I'm on a rough road. But if I'm just sitting still, the truck is idling, I can see on the screen it kind of moving a little bit. So I can feel it in the seat too. There's definitely something going on. There's a reason it's running rough. I hope it's just a setting or something that maybe they need to tweak a little bit. It could be some sort of a bad fuel injector. I'm not exactly sure, but I hope it's nothing more than that, and I'll have that resolved, as I mentioned, before this video actually airs. So stay tuned for that. I will let you guys know what the resolution was as far as having that done. And by the way, I am going to go ahead and have the oil changed in the oil filter when I take it in to have it looked at. And just so you guys know, I was told that they would have to have the truck all day to diagnose this problem. Now, I think that's absurd. There's no way it should take all day. I mean, if you can plug it in, if there's any codes to read, it should become apparent there. And certainly I can't be the first one who's had a rather rough idling Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Anyway, that's the scoop. I just wanted to let you guys know. Now, the big question is, do I regret it? Absolutely not. I love the Mojave. I had talked about the Mojave before. My big concern in getting one, however, was that it would be a truck that was done and there wouldn't be anything for me to do with it. After owning the Sport for a while and doing some mods and things to that, as well as some with my buddy Randall on his Jeep Gladiator Mojave, I am happy to say I was wrong. There are plenty of things to do to this truck and plenty of things coming for it. So I do not regret it. Love the truck. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know if you've got a Jeep Gladiator Mojave or maybe one of the other trim levels. Did you regret what you've got? Would you rather have had a different one? I'd be curious to know. Also, real quick, I do have 2 additional channels. Rob Motive MT, all about mini trucks, currently the Hyundai Santa Cruz, and Rob Motive, all about Toyota Tacomas. Check them out, and if you're interested, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.